Om Namah Shivaya. This morning we continue the program with Swamini Svatmavidyananda Saraswati, and this program is on yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, which examines the ways in which the word yoga is used in the Bhagavad Gita. And we started last night with the first talk. This morning is the second talk. And Swamini Svatmavidyananda Saraswati PhD is a widely recognized scholar of Advaita Vedanta, teaching internationally through lectures and seminars. She is a disciple of Pujya Shri Swami Dayanandaji Saraswati and is known for her expertise in interreligious engagement and Advaita Vedanta. She is the Acharya of Arsha Vijnana Gurukulam and its centers throughout the United States. Let us welcome Swamini Svatmavidyananda Saraswati.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The first definition of yoga appears in the second chapter. The first time the word yoga is defined in the Bhagavad Gita, it appears in the 48th verse of the second chapter. Siddha siddhyo samau bhutva samatvam yogaha uchyate. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity is yoga, we are told by Lord Krishna. And again, if we ask in equanimity in relation to what, it's not equanimity with regard to action, clearly, because we don't do the same things all the time. Even in the act of cooking, for example, even if one is engaged in cooking for 2 or 3 hours, in the beginning one is slicing and dicing, and then after that seasoning, and then cooking, and then adding some final touches, all these things, then plating, all these things are there which come under the rubric of cooking, but even then that is not it's not the sameness of action. Even in japa, you say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Each Om Namah Shivaya is new. It's in that moment, it's right there, right now. And so if the sameness is not advocated for actions, then it is clearly also not advocated for the results of action, because the results of action are also not the same. Results of action are not the same. You cannot, even if you do the same action at different points in time, there are different results. So the sameness is in the receipt of the results of action. It is very, very clear. The samata or samatvam is in the way in which one receives the results of action. And that receipt of the results of action, there is advocated for some grace to reign upon this situation. Why? Because the jiva is an eminently graceless being. This is called in Sanskrit prakrita buddhi, nature made, almost bestial, not samskrita buddhi. Samskrita buddhi is not a buddhi that knows Sanskrit, okay? Samskrita buddhi is a civilized way of just greeting the world. And that has dharma, we'll be seeing a lot of that, and that has some way of just walking the earth, abiding the universe with some semblance of accountability, responsibility, all that goes, acceptance, all that goes under this amorphous word, but very important word, grace. So, by nature, one is one does until one cultivates what we called the accoutrements of adhikaritvam, the qualifications to be a student of Vedanta, such as a resolved mind, etc., that we saw earlier. Viveka, Vairagya, we saw in the last class. And this is so until one cultivates all that, then one is just a prakrita buddhihi, means one has an uncivilized way of being. Kind of, what is that? There was one poem, I'm the monarch of all that I survey. It's my way or the highway. Me first. What do you mean, me first? You pushed me out of the way and now you're saying me first. Well, doesn't matter. The ends justify the means. Not the other way around. The ends justify the means. I got there first. So what if I pushed you in the process? I'm still first. This is how animals are in the wild. This is their law of nature. But the human being knows better because one is innately ready and evidently prepared to want something else out of life other than grab, steal, eat, other than a life, in other words, a life of bhoga. So left to oneself, you know what the chapter on what is that, Asuri Vritti, describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Demonic qualities it is translated as. And Asura is not a demon really. Demon means it's not, we don't have a devil or anything like that. For us, demons are all devotees with hubris, devotees gone wrong, devotees with too much ahankara, ego. That is what it is. So, left to oneself, one is going through an intense loop. And what is this loop? The loop of trying to be the agent of action. And then one succeeds also in being the agent of action, so the hubris increases. And one is the agent of action, or so one thinks. And then what do you want? Nobody wants to be an actor for the sake of acting. One wants to act in order to produce a result. And so one produces the result of what? Of some kind of a result of action that is in keeping with one's strong prejudices and strong preferences. And then what happens? We saw this earlier. One doesn't like what comes, and then one wants to get rid of that and unleash a new set of actions. And the non recognition of the fact that one is not in charge of producing the results of action is the recipe for sorrow. It is an act of a graceless existence, because the results of action are not in your hands. They are not for you to produce. In fact, they are already there. If you have had at least one life as a human being, and in any loka, in any field of existence, in any loka, at any point in time, one has enough karma for so many lifetimes. This is what the whole thing is. And so, therefore, the results of action are already there, and those results of action are just being given to you. And you are not actively producing them. In fact, you have already produced them. You have already, the seeds of those actions done in the last life grow into either blossoming results, punya, or thorny bushes of papa in this life. Ishvara is in charge of dispensing the results of action in keeping with whatever you have done. And so then, who is this Ishvara? Locally not available. You look high and low, and the longing for this Ishvara increases. You sing some songs in satsang. When Why are you playing hide and seek with me, O Krishna? Come to me. I want to be one with you. Where are you? Don't torment me with your invisibility. Have some pity on this bhakta. These are the kinds of songs that are sung in, satsangs. Then you feel good for some time, and then after that you can say, I sat and sang, sat, sang. That's all it is. After that, back to square one. And so there is no yoga, samatvam. This samatvam in the form of the first definition of yoga, there can be no samatvam or no yoga. Yoga is samatvam, we are told, and neither is possible without understanding what this Ishvara is. And this Ishvara plays a very, very salient role in the life of a sadhaka, the recognition of which makes the transformation, makes for the transformation from a graceless to a graceful existence. And if Ishvara is in charge of the whole universe, Ishvara is manifest. We don't say Ishvara is, even though we say Ishvara is the giver of the results of action, the whole order of karma and its results are a manifestation of the Lord. They are a manifestation of the Lord because the law of karma, it's a law. It's infallible. We don't say God is infallible, that's a setup, because then we are having a very subjective idea of God. We say whatever is out of our control, whatever is out of range, that is what out of my control, that is what is infallible. Whatever is infallible is God. You have to switch it around. Whatever is infallible is God. And so there are so many things not in my hands. I don't have it within me to make sure that I get a raise, for example. And how come I am doing all the hard work and the co-worker keeps on getting promoted? And how come my contributions don't seem to matter and this other person is not doing anything? Just, shimmies around and shows up at the right place at the right time without having done any work, and they get all the accolades. Karma. Really? How come one person, for writing some book, maybe not even such a good book, becomes very famous, New York bestseller, millions of copies, digital version, Kindle, this, that, everything? And here one thinks, I have so many good ideas and I have also written some things. And then nobody is there to even read it. And so this is all. There is a very the karma is not random and there is no partiality. It's a sophisticated action and result of action chain that is very, very, very completely infallible. Infallible and impartial. And you cannot even say the karma phala, the results of action are a mandate of Ishvara. Nay, they are a manifestation of the Lord. So whatever is the result of action is the Lord itself. And so we have a way of getting to a graceful acceptance of the results of action. And that kind of an attitude with which the result of action should be received is called prasada buddhi. Not prakrita buddhi, prasada buddhi. The word prasada, it doesn't have a translation in English. Unless you want to say prasada, that's a different thing. But it doesn't have an English translation at all. Prasada, roughly translated as graceful acceptance of something that is sacred, and holy, seeing it, the ability to see it as sacred and holy. And this is not just specific to the Hindu tradition. Even in you go to take communion in church, especially in Catholic Church. At the end of the service, they are there with some pieces of wafers or bread and wine, but it is not bread, it is not wine. They make sure to tell you this is the body of Christ, it stands for the sacrifice. This is the blood of Christ. And you just when one goes to the church, one accepts communion with a certain grace, with a certain acceptance. You take it and you say thank you. You don't fight with the priest or one of the altar people that are giving. How come they got a bigger sip of wine and I am getting such a small piece of bread? No such thing. And so the prasada buddhi, the prasada that you get at the temple, same thing in the temple also. In any Hindu temple, one day you go, some big function you don't even know was there, some festival, and then what do you get? You get laddus. Loosely translated as calorie balls, caloried balls, balls full of calories. Okay, yeah, soaked in ghee and all kinds of nice things. So you get a laddu. Oh, how nice! It's not even time for dessert. Swaha, wonderful. And then another time you go at the same time thinking another laddu is coming. No laddu, not even a priest. You have to help yourself to a little bit of holy water, seasoned with some tulsi leaves that is kept there. Self service. That's all. Prasada. The first one, laddu, prasada. The other one, prasada. And so the graceful acceptance, the prasada buddhi teaches us to accept everything as though it's an offering from the temple that is being returned to you. So one day it will be wonderful, another day nothing, third day maybe they serve something you don't care for at all. And this frequently happens. I'm giving out prasad in after satsang in the ashram or something like that. And then, there'll be a small child. One girl came, she was standing in the prasada line. And then I handed a banana because that was what was handed to me from someone else. So I handed the banana to the child, and the child went like this. 2-year-old, 3-year-old, small toddler. Can I have the apple instead? So, too young to teach prasada buddhi. I was going to reach out for the apple to give to the child. After all, it's a small child. The mother and the father said, no, this is not a banana. This is prasada. You have to take what is given.
Any sort of breakfast I can start Tuesday?
Yeah, I'd like a large coffee, dark roast.
So you have to accept whatever comes. Whatever comes. And of course, the West is a land of choices. And we are always, we want things made to order. That's why I don't think it was a coincidence that we heard somebody's Starbucks order just now. This was just illustrating that. Nothing is out of place. So, dark roast I want, and then I want this, and I want the cream on the side, and I want this on top, and I want that separately, and then it is given. For a price, everything is possible. So then, we are used to this instant gratification and made to order culture, which gives us a kind of an ersatz, a false feeling that one is in control. And ultimately what, it is like what T.S. Eliot wrote in his poem, The Love Song of Alfred J. Prufrock, a jaded jiva, who was just hopeless and bored. And all, and then he just wonders. I grow old, he says, I grow old. Shall I wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled? This is his musings. This is where the choices come down to be. They just percolate to just, okay, shall I wear the bottoms of my jeans rolled up, or shall I wear them straight? Should the jeans have more holes than fabric? Is that the chic thing? Or should they, should they be frayed? All these, these are the small level choices that one is, like children operating without understanding that, really speaking, you really don't control anything. And the sooner we find that out, the better it is for who? For you, for your spiritual progress. It is better for your own spiritual progress. The sooner this is discovered, the sooner this is discovered, the quicker one is able to come to terms with what is. What is prasada. Ishvara is prasada. What is Ishvara. This is what is the background knowledge needed to assimilate the first definition of yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Mind, the attitude with which the actions are received, that the equanimity is called yoga. And this is the first component of what constitutes karma yoga. So if we unpack the aspects that are there, what are the aspects that are there? The first point is to recognize that you are not the producer of the results of action. Not at all the producer of the results of action. So if you are not the producer of the results of action, then what are you producing? You're just in charge of action, finished, not the results of action, number one. Then of course we have a logical question: who is the producer of result of action? And we saw very briefly, but completely, that the results of action, you can say, are given by Ishvara, and then we polish that statement to say, nay, they are a manifestation of the Lord. And so the results of action will come because they are what in Sanskrit is called avashyam bhavi. They will definitely come. And if they are going to come, what are you have to receive it. You cannot say, I'm not going to receive it. That also is exercising a choice. You cannot say, I'm not going to receive it. What choice do you have? You have to receive it. It's already coming at you. And so how you receive it makes all the difference in increasing the preparedness for this knowledge. But it's so difficult how to say yes to everything. To whatever comes, I have to say prasada. Somebody dear to me stops talking to me. Prasada. And I get a laddu. Prasada. How can the two be the same? No, not the same at all. Well, it is easier said than done, like everything in the Bhagavad Gita, like everything in Vedanta. But one thing we can remember, you can make it a little easy. Because you look at action and then you see that there are, the action and results of action. You see that there are only 4 kinds of outcomes we have to learn to manage. See, now it's not so hard, is it? Only 4 things we have to be mindful of. 4 kinds of outcome we have to manage. The first one is what? The outcome is in keeping with the action. To take a very mundane example, I crossed the road, I was waiting for the bus, I crossed the road, the bus came, I caught the bus and went wherever I wanted to go. I went into the city to go to the market. Of course, this is not COVID in this story. Okay, there is no COVID in this story. We have to see, this is pre-COVID. So I crossed the road, caught the bus. So the action of crossing the road in order to catch the bus commensurates with or is in keeping with the outcome. I caught the bus and I'm on my merry way. Scenario number 1, fantastic. Scenario number 2, I cross the road and I'm standing in the hot sun, and somebody with a nice car slows down and stops And the driver rolls down the window. It is a long lost friend I have not seen in years. What are you doing here? Hop in. We'll go have some coffee, dark roast, and then we will I will then drop you to your destination. The outcome of crossing the road with the intention of catching the bus is better than the action. The outcome is a scenario is better. The outcome is better than what are my expectation. Fantastic, very very nice. Some punya has fructified. And then what? then the then the third scenario is the story of everyone's life. I crossed the road all right, but I missed the bus. The story of missed buses, figuratively speaking, missed opportunities, missed chances, all this is the story of everyone's life. Everyone can relate. So the outcome is less than one's expectations. The action of crossing the road did not yield my expectation. In fact, the bus driver saw me coming, but then sped away. And so, therefore, what? And then this is what it is. And the last one is best described as I was crossing the road, dot, dot, dot. What happened? Well, you know, I don't know what happened. I was a good citizen. I looked to the left, no cars. I looked to the right, no cars, no buses. But there was a hidden variable. This is an Indian road, okay, where I am currently. So this is an Indian road. And there was a hidden variable in the form of a banana peel on the road. Not very appealing, okay. And so then what happened? I had an instant skating lesson and then lost consciousness briefly. And then when I came to, I was asking fundamental spiritual questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is going on? And the leg is in a big cast. This is what it is. So the outcome here is opposite of my expectations. These are the only four scenarios. And if we are able to manage these, then samatvam yoga uchyate, the first definition of yoga is in the bag. In fact, Lord Krishna says you have to manage the first two outcomes. Because when things go your way, the first two meaning, so you catch the bus, you expect what you get, and what you get you have already expected. And then the second scenario, the outcome is better than your expectations. And that also you have to learn to manage the ecstasy. Because if you fly too high when things are going your way, then what happens? You have a long way to come down to manage the other two scenarios. So the advice in the Bhagavad Gita is to manage the harsha, means the happy situations, when things do go your way. And to how to manage that, it's very easy. Managing all four of them, only one formula. When the results of action are not in your hand, you think about it and see that you are really not the performer of the actions themselves. That too is done by Ishvara. So you drag Ishvara into the situation and into the context as a proxy actor. This is how to manage these outcomes. This is how to have prasada buddhi all the time. Because everything is prasada and Ishvara is the one who is the actor. And that's what it is, you go to any Indian home and you praise the house, what a nice house. They will say it is God's grace, it is Guru's grace, it's Guru Prasada, God's Prasada, Krishna's grace, whatever it is, Rama's grace. They will not take the ownership. even though they are feeling very pleased inside that you praise their cooking. But the tradition, the force of the tradition is to have this graceful existence by washing one's hands, of being in the place of the doer of action. You drag in Ishvara, whether he likes it or not. You just say, you are the proxy actor, I am not the actor. And whatever you give, therefore, you are the actor, you produce the results of action, so whatever comes is definitely prasada. Laddu prasada, missed bus prasada, hospital stay prasada. Everything is prasada, 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 all the way. Even children are prasada. In the Hindu tradition, the name prasada is a very common name. There is what, Krishna Prasad, Rama Prasad, Durga Prasad. These are all very, very astute parents. Good parenting starts with considering your children as prasada. Someone that, the children have been sent to you as, you are their managing trustees. They have their own karmic trajectory. They are, complete beings. And they have just been loaned to you for safekeeping until they are able to take care of themselves. That is what is prasada buddhi. And so with this prasada buddhi, what happens is that there is a transformation. There is an inner transformation because of which one is able to let go, rise above the need for instant gratification, rise above the raga and dvesha, the strong prejudices and preferences that control one. We are not talking of desires. Desires are a blessing. And you cannot really control them because it is Ishvara's creation. Otherwise, there would be no books written, there would be no satsang, there would be no teachers desiring to teach, and no students desiring to learn. So the desire here is just something which is so beautiful. The desire is is not being talked about here. We are talking of desires that turn into prejudices. We are talking of desires that are unmanageable and turn into strong preferences. Those have to be managed, and the only way to manage them is to have this prasada buddhi and to know that I am not the producer of either the action or the result of action. But what to do with the disappointment? The heart just closes up like a lotus flower when the sun withdraws itself into and sinks into the west. The lotus flower closes up in disappointment. And so too, when a raga or dvesha is not fulfilled, the person wilts and goes into instant depression, instant dejection, disappointment. And here too, we harness the power of Ishvara as a super psychotherapist. It becomes the altar of surrender, that Ishvara in whatever name, whatever form that you want to invoke. And all forms and names are okay for invocation for the sake of prayer. So the prayer is there. That is the place to take the disappointments. Because you can't take them to the significant other. Because if you are always disappointed around the significant other, the word significant will drop from the relationship and they'll only be other. Because the person will be sick of listening to their complaints, your complaints. And you can't talk to your friends about it, because how long will the friends listen to your disappointment? You can't talk to, who else will you talk to? The therapist also you can talk to for a while, but how long can you talk to? And then in the end you have to pay them, it looks funny. And then, and so you need a place. You need a place to take the disappointments in the form of a prayer. I didn't get what I want. This becomes a prayer in the Hindu tradition. Why are you so cruel? Why are you not giving me what I am asking for? This also is it is a prayer. It is a prayer. And this kind of a way of taking the disappointments and putting them in the lap of the Lord, has a miraculous effect. The altar that is Ishvara, in whichever name or form he or she is invoked, becomes a sponge to soak up that disappointment and free you from carrying the burdens of unmet desires. You become purified, because prayer is absolutely purifying. You immediately, instantly become free of the burden. In fact, a mumukshu's prayer, the one who is a spiritual sadhaka, the aspirant's prayer must be, please free me from the burden of this raga and dvesha. You please take it away. Take it away so that I don't have to hold on to it. Very beautiful. And so, you see, here the first definition of yoga, to even for it to become a possibility, we need the grace of Ishvara. We have to bring in Ishvara as a proxy actor. We have to recognize Ishvara as the giver of the results of action. And we have to recognize Ishvara as the altar of surrender when things don't go the way that we want. An altar of surrender of all the likes and of all the strong likes and dislikes, they are placed onto the altar. And we pray for the blessing to be free of these pains and sorrows. Then we can say that we are on the way to understanding what Lord Krishna says when he says the meaning of the word yoga, the first meaning of the word yoga, that I would like you to internalize and understand, O Arjuna, is that yoga is equanimity in the receipt of the results of action. How? By seeing the whole world as Ishvara, by Ishwarizing the whole Jagat, and all the situations that one confronts, one then becomes free to accept everything as prasada. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ